Earning enough passive income to pay all of your expenses forever is the dream of any investor. One way to do that is to earn passive income through dividends. As I approach my own financial goals, I begin to wonder to myself, what is realistic? Can you live off dividends in retirement? You can absolutely live off dividends in retirement. Simply build a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks large enough that the total annual dividend payments will cover your total annual expense. Sounds simple enough, so how do we accomplish it? Let's start at the beginning. What is a dividend? When you buy a stock, you become a shareholder of that company. Companies reward their shareholders in one of two ways: grow the business, thus increasing the price of the stock and the value of the shareholders, or pay a dividend to shareholders. A dividend is simply a company paying out a portion of its profit to shareholders. Companies pay dividends either quarterly or monthly and are announced on a per-share basis. For example, a company may announce that they will pay a quarterly dividend of 50 cents per share every quarter. So if you own 100 shares, you would be paid $50 in dividends. When a company declares a dividend, they will also announce the ex-dividend date. The ex-dividend date is the date you must own the stock in order to be eligible for the dividend. If you purchase a stock after their ex-dividend date, you do not get paid the dividend. Finally, the payable date is the date the dividend will be paid to the shareholders. What is dividend yield and why is it important? Dividend yield is the dividend a company pays expressed as a percentage of the current share price. So, if a company with a share price of $100 per share pays a quarterly dividend of 50 cents or $2 per year, the yield would be 2%. Yield is an important measurement to investors looking to capitalize on dividends as a form of steady cash flow. Yield also helps you to measure your annual growth. Some investors will buy dividend stocks with the intention of never selling, regardless of the stock price. They are happy with the yield itself as the annual growth rate. For example, if I own a portfolio of stocks that yield a combined 5% in dividends, I will earn at least 5% for the year. If I never sell the stocks, I never lose money even if the price goes down. One problem with this technique is that companies whose stock price drops usually also lower their dividends, or their yield on cost. Yield on cost is of particular interest for long-term investors who intend to allow their dividends to reinvest and grow over time. We can define yield on cost as basically what the current dividend represented as a percentage of your original cost for those shares. For example, a stock currently pays a dividend of $2 per year and the current price is $100. The current yield is 2%. However, if you purchased that stock a few years ago when it was only $50 per share, your yield on cost is 4%. Yield on cost is really just another way to measure the success of an investment. You would expect the stock price as well as the dividend paid to go up over time. Conversely, this will increase your yield on cost. Dividend Reinvestment Program, or DRIP. A dividend reinvestment program is a plan offered by companies that allows you to automatically reinvest your dividend payments into additional shares or fractional shares of a company in lieu of cash payments. You know, this can be an extremely valuable tool for long-term investors whose goal it is to maximize the compounding effect this has over time. DRIPs also allow for the purchase of fractional shares in the event the dividend payment does not cover the total cost of a share. It's important to note that dividends reinvested through a DRIP program still qualify as taxable income and will need to be reported as such. Building a dividend portfolio for retirement. Once you understand the power of dividend income and compounding, you can begin to devise an investment strategy. The goal of an investor planning to retire using dividend stocks is to earn enough income from dividends to pay their annual expenses. The dividend investor in this case does not care about the value of the stock or its growth rate. They are only concerned with the question, will the dividend payments cover my expenses in retirement? The shares of stock themselves act as a safety net, but the intent is to never sell them, but instead live off the dividend payments forever. If you think you just don't have the money to invest now, then you need to check out my article on why you are broke and what to do to change it. If that doesn't do it for you, here are 10 insanely easy tips for cutting spending to help you start saving towards your dreams of becoming rich. As with most areas of investing, everyone has their own opinion on the best way to build a long-lasting, cash-dispensing dividend portfolio. Here are 4 strategies I have used to varying levels of success. Number 1. Individual stocks. The first strategy for building a dividend portfolio is to pick individual dividend-paying stocks. This will require you to have the time to really dig in and study the balance sheets of a good number of companies so you know what you're getting into. There is a certain level of risk that goes into investing in any company, and the more well-informed you are, the better decision you can make, the lower your risk. It takes a lot of research to become informed enough to feel comfortable picking stocks. One example from my own experience where I failed to do enough research is Kraft Heinz. I jumped on board far too quickly as the price sank. I figured even if the stock continues to fall, at least I will collect a healthy dividend. As the price of the stock continued to slide in 2018 and early 2019, its yield climbed to over 5%. Then in February 2019, quarterly results were poor and they decided to cut the dividend from 62.5 cents per share to 40 cents per share. Many investors were not happy with this and dumped the stock, causing the stock price to plummet 20% in a day. By the time the dust had settled, I was down over 50% on the position and my dividend had been cut 36%. The moral of the story: you need to do your research and don't put all your eggs in one basket, which leads us to strategy number 2. Number 2, diversify with index funds. Index funds are investments that bundle individual stocks together for you. They have done the research and have grouped these stocks together into one fund so you have a diversified fund. The stocks can be grouped in many different ways, from sector to S&P 500 stocks to all dividend-paying stocks. You can find many index funds that are well diversified and pay healthy dividends. By investing in these funds, you retain the benefit of the dividend-paying stocks while reducing the risk involved in picking individual stocks on your own. You also reduce the time required to research and rebalance your investments each year.